Hey guys, welcome back to the movie summary. Beginning of the movie, we see astronauts on Mars. They do research there. Now the year is 2035. 18 days have passed since they came to this planet. One day they get a message from NASA. A storm is coming soon. After receiving this message, the team's commander Melissa tells to stop the research. She orders them to leave before the storm hits. The storm will come before their expected time. That storm will be terrible. Then an object comes and hits an astronaut named Mark. So he flies away. All his colleagues try to contact him. But they don't know where he is. This storm causes damage to the space shuttle. So they decide to leave from there. They all think Mark is dead. Then they travel to Earth. NASA director tells media that a terrible storm hit Mars. Therefore the mission has to be stopped in the middle. And our scientist Mark Watney died as part of this mission. Now again we see the planet Mars. Mark is not dead. He is still alive. An object pierced his stomach. Then he comes to the station. He takes out the object and treated his wound himself. Next he gets in front of the computer and video records all his words. The reason he does this, if Mark is dead, later scientists will find out how he died. He tries many ways to contact NASA. But he is unable to contact them. The station where Mark is staying has enough oxygen for 31 days. Then he must die here. Now he doesn't even have enough food. Oxygen also runs out in a few days. He had no chance of survival. He has only one chance. But that's also the Mars mission 4 years later. Then some astronauts come here. Now his task is to survive till 4 years. He thinks how to survive till 4 years. In fact, Mark is also a botanist. Then he gets an idea. He decides to survive on this planet by farming. He starts farming. Mark wants to use his waste as fertilizer and farm potatoes. Now he needs water too. Mark gets another idea. He tries to combine hydrogen and oxygen to produce water. But just then his experiment failed and exploded. Again he experimented without error and produced water. A plant grows within a few days. Mark is very happy to see it. On the other hand, everyone on Earth thinks that Mark is dead. His funeral will be conducted with official ceremonies. Now we see Vincent Kapoor. He is the Mars mission director. He sends some coordinates to Mindy. She is a satellite expert. Based on them she sees the pictures on Mars. There an object moves from one place to another. They notice that Mark is still alive. They gave a statement to the press that Mark was already dead. The NASA director tells them not to tell his team that Mark is alive. Because they are still in space. It takes 10 months to return to Earth. If they know about this, they will be in a lot of trouble. Vincent tells that Mark is now 50 million miles away from Earth. It is not right to leave him alone like that. We should help him. Later the NASA director tells the press that Mark is still alive. Then the whole world will be shocked. On the other hand, 70 days have passed on Mars. Mark wants to get closer to the Ares 4 location. That location is 3,000 kilometers away. He makes arrangements to go there. Scientists on Earth are making plans to save him. Mark has now harvested the potatoes. He spends days eating them. He goes in search of a device called a Pathfinder. He finds the device. Mark repairs it. Vincent sees what Mark is doing through satellite images. He goes to California. Here he meets the Pathfinder team of 1997. There they help to Vincent. Finally their connectivity with Mark is found. But Mark have to answer them through yes or no. And it takes 32 minutes to collect that information. A lot of time is wasted if they communicate in this way. So NASA team send Mark a software. Mark attaches the software to the rover and sends messages. Then everyone at NASA will be very happy. Now their communication will be easy. They tells Mark that we did not tell your team that you are still alive. Mark gets very angry after knowing this. Then he scolds the NASA team. The NASA team tells his team that Mark is still alive. Melissa and her team are shocked to hear this. Melissa says, "This is all my fault." On the other hand, NASA is preparing the spaceship to provide food to Mark. It will take 6 months for the spaceship to be ready. But since the Mark has to be saved quickly, the spaceship is made within 3 months. The food in that spaceship is enough for 4 years. Mark will be saved when the astronauts comes to Mars for the Ares 4 mission. NASA team launches spaceship. But unfortunately the spaceship explodes. On the other hand, there will be leakage in the Mark station. Hence his station will explode. Hence his entire potato farm is destroyed. Mark learns that the spaceship has exploded. Then he will be very sad. He thinks that he cannot go back to Earth. Next we look at the China Space Agency. They know about the Mark. They want to help him. China has an advanced booster. It can reach Mars quickly. They decide to give their booster to NASA. On the other hand, a scientist named Rich gives the NASA team an idea to save Mark. Melissa and her team must return to Mars. But they can't land there. They have to save the Mark without landing. Everyone is thinking how to save Mark. Just then Vincent gets an idea. There is a capsule on Mars. Mark have to use it and get into Mars orbit. He then has to go into Melissa's spaceship. This plan sounds good. But there is a lot of risk involved in implementation. Moreover, it will take 500 days for it to happen as planned. Hearing all this, the NASA director does not accept their plan. Because he doesn't want to put the whole team at risk for one person. Then other scientist says that we can leave this decision to his team. Everything that happened here is sent by a man named Rich to Melissa. Then Melissa's whole team decides to save Mark. Later, the NASA team sends food to Mark and his team with the help of China's booster. Now Mark is very weak. Eating less food. He decides to leave for Ares 4. He charges during the daytime and travels at nighttime. After few days he reaches Ares 4. But now he gets a problem. The ship is very heavy. He tells this to Vincent. Vincent's team will come up with a solution. The objects in that spaceship should be removed. The communication system in it should be thrown out. The top panel also has to be removed. Instead of that panel he had to cover it with a lightweight material. Hence this spaceship will be lighter. Now the mission will start. This mission will be watched live by the people. Then Mark takes his ship and enters Mars orbit. On the other hand, his team's spaceship also enters Mars orbit. But their spaceship speed is much higher than the Mark. Therefore they cannot save the Mark. Then Melissa comes up with a plan. Blasting the back of the spaceship slows down the harness. Melissa then exits the spaceship to save Mark. The rope tied to her is too short, Melissa can't reach the Mark. Then Mark punches a hole in his suit and enters space. So he uses pressure to get close to Melissa. Then Melissa catches him. Now they saved Mark. The NASA team and people will be very happy to know this. Later Mark becomes very emotional with his team in the ship. He spent 500 days without his team. Next we see Mark on Earth. He now works as a survival instructor. After 5 years all his team members are happily enjoying their lives. Then they all watch the Ares 5 mission launch on television. This is how this movie ends. 99% people watch my videos without subscribing. I am working hard to make these videos. My humble request to subscribe my channel to grow.